next up, we have Jaelynn in Kansas. Pronouns are she, her. Jaelynn, you are live. What's up?
Hi.
Hello. How are you?
Good, thanks.
Good. What's your question?
Your call says that you want to discuss interacting with trans people you've not encountered before. Sorry, go ahead. You say it.
Right. So, yeah, I'll give you some context. I am a trans woman who is a performing singer-songwriter, and in the area where I'm currently performing, there's a lot of people who are either haven't, interacted with trans people before, or they come from like an anti-trans or communities that look down on trans people. And I had kind of a two-part question. It's kind of like an ask the experts sort of thing, I guess. The first part being like, there's like a conflict in my head when I go to talk to folks, where it's like, I don't want to come off like I represent the entire trans community, because everybody's experience is different and I can't speak for other people. But then I also, there's that part where you're kind of the ambassador, as being the, you're like on the spot. So I wanted to know how you walked that tightrope, or how you reconciled that conflict, or if that even is a factor for you.
I think, a lot of these kinds of conversations, I think you'll find that while these same people might on Facebook and Twitter seem really bold about their positions they hold, if they're interacting with you and they don't know you're trans and you don't bring it up, but at some point it just comes up, right? And all of a sudden you're in that spot and you're the representative of the trans community. I think like 99% of those people are not going to be combative about it. They're going to be like kind of stun locked for a minute, like not know what to say. Oh my God, I'm in front of a real trans right now. Holy cow. So this kind of thing comes up with like sex work too, right? Like when people are like, oh, like those OnlyFans bitches, what do you think they do? And you could actually be like, well, actually, I make money on OnlyFans. I do that. And like kind of like be like, slide it in really casually, but not make it the center of conversation. And I think that kind of thing is really effective. Because I think what they're missing a lot of the time is the human component of who you are. I lived briefly in Florida, and my parents' neighbors, who they're best friends with, are huge Trumpers, right? My parents are not like that, thank goodness, but their friends were. And I went over for dinner with them one night, and I remember they were upset because like Disney was changing the names of some rides based on some like accusations of like, I think racism at the time. And they were talking about how they were so excited about Candace Owens maybe being a Republican, like on the Republican ticket. They were trying to like play to me like, oh, I know you're a trans person, so identity politics must be like up your alley. And like we were actually able to have like a good conversation like briefly about like why I think those things are justified, and they didn't really know what to say to it. And then we just went on playing dominoes for the rest of the night, and we didn't talk about politics at all. And I actually think I think it went really well. Like we had a good conversation, and they were really polite. So I think you might not get to see the fruits of your labor or anything like that. But I do think there are some really great opportunities to like, if you just casually like drop it in, sprinkle it into the conversation to make a lot of change. But I know how scary that can be, because like, oh shit, I'm outing myself. Like, what is the risk of that?
Yeah. But
the problem with that is I'm like, sorry, I'll just squeeze in there. I'm eminently clockable. So usually it's them approaching me and wanting to have that conversation. But anyway, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Katie.
No, yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I think I was going to say about the fact that I don't usually out myself. And if it comes up, if I get trapped talking about it, I'll talk about it. But if you're talking about a situation where people clock you, or they're coming up to you because they know, because I also have that, and I used to have that more earlier in transition. I basically, if someone comes up and they're clearly trying to ask questions to understand stuff, if they ask me a direct question and they say, do trans people do this? I would say, I do this, and this is my opinion, but it's worth bearing in mind that we're all different, And I've actually heard that some trans people say the opposite. And I think I would say that for, most things. If they come up and said, why are all trans people attention seekers? I'd be like, that's a ridiculous stereotype garbage. If they came up and said, like, did you always want to be a girl when you were little? I would say, well, actually, yes. Like some of my earliest memories, I was like 6 and I wanted to be a girl. But that's not true necessarily for all trans people. I mean, it's certainly not true for trans men, but like, it's not true for all trans women either. And it's just worth pointing that out. And sometimes I just do that kind of short answer because I don't necessarily want to prompt some massive long conversation. But I think it is good to just answer a couple. And if they keep questioning and you just want to get away, tell them to call into the show, or just be like, it's quite exhausting answering loads of questions. I don't mean to be rude to you, but, let's talk about something else. But I think, whenever I answer a question, I always say, this is what I do. This is what I think. This is me. And sometimes I say, and this is common, like, if they say, are trans people, I don't know, more likely to be gender non-conforming? I would say, yeah, it's actually really common in trans people. And maybe I'm not a good representative of that. And, it's much more likely in trans people or something. And I just kind of give them an idea of the playing field. Not everyone agrees. I'm kind of a generic example, but not in some things. And all I can do is tell you my own experience.
Okay.
What do you think?
Well, thank you for that. You kind of got into the second part of the question that I had there as well, which I appreciate. That second part being, it takes a lot out of me to not want to just turn tail and run, because I feel like it's kind of incumbent upon me to, be.
It's not your duty. I just want to say that,
like be an ambassador,
Yeah, if you're like out at the, I'm just saying it's not actually your duty. I know you might feel like that, and I feel like that, and it's hypocritical of me to say don't feel like it's your duty, because I always fucking feel like it's my duty. But like, you don't have to. That is wrong. For sure, if you've got a chance, if you've got the energy, you could be doing a good thing. You could change people's minds just by existing or just by answering a question, and that's a good thing. But at the same time, there are like 6 billion people on this planet who have never met a trans person and who want to ask really creepy questions, and you just don't have to do that. It's not your job. If someone comes over to you and they ask some question, you're like, I just don't have the energy for this today. It's okay. So I often answer questions with people, like someone comes over and they ask some question about my genitals, and I'm like, you know what, mate, I'm happy to answer this because I'm really open, but I just want you to know that this is really exhausting and this is really rude to ask a trans person this. And I'm not saying, like, I don't want to offend you. I'm not saying that, like, you haven't come over, you haven't ruined my evening, but I just want to say I'm happy to answer this now, but I don't really want to talk about it, and most trans people aren't going to want to. So just so you're aware for future, so you don't accidentally upset people, because I know you don't want to, kind of cushion it, because it's just egos, and they'll get all offended if you tell them that they're doing something wrong. But if you just like pushing it, like, oh, I can see that you just want to learn. I really appreciate you, but like, just so you know, this is like CBA, like trying to get drunk over here. Can you fuck off? Then I think it's okay. It's okay to just say no.
Right.
Definitely.
Okay. Thank you for that. And I'm kind of in a position where I do want to engage with people who approach me with a question in good faith, and they're like actually trying to broaden their mind and stuff. But it's just really taxing. And I guess I'll develop those skills little by little, I suppose. But yeah, thank you for that insight.
What you can also do is start your own call-in show, and then when someone asks you a question, just be like, I have a call-in show. You can ask it then. And then that's what I do now. Like, people will be like, oh, can I ask you this thing about trans stuff? And I'll be like, call in a Saturday. And they're like, oh, yeah, I might do it. And they don't. And that's the end of the conversation.
Awesome.
All right.
Well, thank you for the call, Jaelynn.
Sorry, go ahead.
This is a really interesting conversation. No, I was just saying thank you for the call. I appreciate it. It was really interesting. And I think a lot of people are probably in your shoes. So hopefully I'm sure some viewers got like a lot out of that conversation. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great day, girls.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.